Welcome, everyone, to TechDaily.ai. I am David, and I'm joined today by our guest expert, Sophia.
Hey, I am so glad to be here. We really have an incredible topic to unpack today.
You can sponsor this podcast for just $25. Your message will be featured across major platforms like Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and more. If you're interested, visit TechDaily.ai to get started today. Now, to kick things off, I want you to do something right now. Well, assuming you aren't driving, obviously.
Yeah, please keep your eyes on the road if you are.
Exactly. But if you're free, just unlock your phone. Take a look at the screen for a few seconds. What do you see? You see grid, right?
Rows and columns of colorful little squares.
Exactly. You've got an app for your email, an app to order a ride, an app to check the weather, an app to order food. It's literally how we've interacted with our digital lives for almost 2 decades.
Right, it's completely ingrained in us.
But I want you to imagine a world where every single one of those squares completely vanishes. The grid is gone. The folders are gone. Instead, that entire fragmented system is replaced by a single, invisible, omnipresent assistant.
It's a fundamental dismantling of the user interface we've all grown up with. I mean, we've been heavily conditioned to think in terms of opening a specific application to perform a highly specific task.
Open the tool to do the job.
Right. So the idea of removing that step, of just removing the apps themselves, feels incredibly disorienting.
Mm.
Yet that's the exact computing paradigm shift we're digging into today.
Yeah. And today's mission is to pull together all this mounting evidence, recent analyst notes, and supply chain leaks, because they all point to one massive conclusion.
OpenAI is building its own smartphone.
They are. And they aren't just building it to, compete for a little bit of market share against the iPhone or the Galaxy. They're designing a device from the ground up to actively kill the traditional app ecosystem altogether.
Which is a massive undertaking.
It's huge. So over the next few minutes, we're going to explore the heavyweight hardware coalition they're assembling, the core philosophy behind what the industry calls AI agents, and the incredibly aggressive timeline for getting this completely new type of device into your pocket.
And understanding the scale of this really requires looking at the players involved. Because you don't just decide to build a smartphone on a Tuesday and expect it to be on shelves by the holidays, you know?
No, definitely not.
It demands an immensely complex supply chain, literal billions of dollars in capital, and deeply specialized manufacturing expertise.
Right, which is why the first major piece of this puzzle is the hardware coalition they are putting together. We're looking at a recent note from Ming-Chi Kuo.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, for anyone who follows the tech sector, that name carries an enormous amount of weight. Kuo is a legendary industry analyst who built his entire reputation on highly accurate leaks regarding Apple's hardware plans.
Right. When he talks, people listen.
Exactly. When he details supply chain movements, he isn't just guessing. He's looking at concrete orders and manufacturing hub activities. And according to his latest note, OpenAI is actively collaborating with absolute titans in the chip-making world.
MediaTek and
Qualcomm, to develop a custom smartphone chip. And at the exact same time, they're tapping Luxshare to be a co-design and manufacturing partner.
The inclusion of Luxshare is particularly telling, honestly.
How so?
Well, they are a massive electronics manufacturer, heavily relied upon by companies like Apple for complex assembly. By aligning with Qualcomm and MediaTek for the silicon and then Luxshare for the physical build, OpenAI is essentially trying to replicate the vertical integration that makes Apple so dominant.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, they have the artificial intelligence models, right? The brain. But they recognize they need absolute top-tier physical infrastructure to serve it to the masses.
It's sort of like, imagine a master chef. They want to open this completely revolutionary restaurant. But they realize pretty quickly that they can't do it alone. They need to partner with, the world's absolute best farmers for the ingredients, which would be Qualcomm and MediaTek.
Right.
And they need the best kitchen architects, like Luxshare, to actually build the physical space to pull it off.
That's a great way to put it. And this all aligns perfectly with comments made earlier this year by OpenAI's Chief Global Affairs Officer, Chris Lethane. He dropped some very intentional hints that their first hardware product is on track to arrive in the second half of 2026.
Right. And back then, the entire tech world was buzzing that this 2026 device was going to be a uniquely designed set of earbuds.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
But the current trajectory suggests those earbuds are just a beachhead.
A stepping stone.
Exactly. Whether they are meant to be a standalone product to test voice-driven AI interaction or a companion wearable for a larger ecosystem, the ultimate goal isn't just an accessory. The central hub of human-computer interaction is the smartphone.
And that's the fortress they were preparing to siege.
Precisely.
Okay, I have to jump in here and aggressively push back on this strategy, though.
Let's hear it.
I look at this and I just see the graveyard of tech giants trying to make phones. Look at the Amazon Fire phone.
Oh, an absolute disaster.
Right,
Oh.
Microsoft lost billions trying to force Windows Phone into existence. And if we look specifically at AI hardware, just in the last couple of years, the Humane AI Pen and the Rabbit R1 were both catastrophic, highly publicized flops.
Very true.
Hardware margins are notoriously terrible compared to software. So why would a wildly successful software giant risk their reputation in the most brutal, unforgiving consumer electronics market on Earth? Why not just let Apple and Samsung build the metal and glass and live happily as the smartest app on their operating systems?
The primary reason is control. Living inside someone else's device means playing by someone else's rules.
Ah, the walled gardens.
Exactly. Apple and Google are the ultimate gatekeepers of the modern digital experience. They control the operating systems, they govern the app stores, and they dictate exactly what level of system access third-party developers are allowed to have.
If you're an app on iOS, you only get to see what Apple lets you see.
And Apple restricts quite a bit, largely citing security and privacy. If OpenAI wants an AI agent to truly manage your digital life, that AI needs deep, unrestricted access to the core operating system.
It needs to see everything.
Right. It needs the authority to see what's happening across different applications, manage your files, intercept inbound notifications, control local settings. Apple and Google are never going to grant a third-party app that level of root access.
So to integrate AI into every single facet of a device, OpenAI basically has to own the entire stack,
They have to own the metal to control the software running underneath.
which fundamentally changes the business model of the phone itself. If OpenAI pulls this off, we're talking about a device that bypasses the traditional App Store model entirely.
Completely bypasses it.
And this brings us to the concept of AI agents. But for the listener, I want to frame this clearly. I like my apps,
We all do.
right? We're all very used to the friction. We know how to open Uber, type in an address, pick the ride, and pay. How does an AI agent actually replace the physical act of using an app?
It requires shifting how we view digital intent. Think about what you're actually trying to achieve. You aren't opening DoorDash because you enjoy scrolling through their user interface.
Definitely not.
You're opening it because you are hungry and want food delivered. The app is just a middleman.
So right now, my phone is essentially a heavy toolbox. If I want to ride to the airport, I have to open the toolbox, find the specific wrench labeled Uber, pull it out, and do all the labor myself.
That's a perfect analogy. But in an agent-driven ecosystem, you aren't digging for tools. You're hiring an assistant.
Okay.
You just tell the phone, get me a ride to the airport for my 4 p.m. flight. The AI agent already has access to your calendar, so it knows the flight time and terminal. It knows your preferred ride-sharing service, whether that's Uber or Lyft, based on past behavior. It negotiates the booking in the background, pinging the ride-sharing APIs directly without ever launching a graphical interface.
Wow.
It simply replies to you, your driver is 3 minutes away. The application layer becomes entirely invisible to you.
I am just trying to wrap my head around the economic fallout of that.
All right.
I mean, Apple makes billions of dollars a year just collecting a 30% toll on app subscriptions and in-app purchases.
Billions.
If the apps vanish and the AI is just routing requests to APIs in the background, that entire App Store economy basically collapses. But is this really just an OpenAI fever dream, or is this where the broader industry is actually heading?
It's definitely the broader industry consensus. We are absolutely bracing for a post-app future. Carl Pei, the CEO of the hardware company Nothing, recently spoke at SXSW and explicitly predicted the death of apps.
Really?
Yeah. And we're also seeing this sentiment echoed heavily by the creators of vibe coding platforms.
Okay, let's pause and explain vibe coding really quickly, because that's a term popping up everywhere right now. But a lot of people might not know what it implies for the future of software.
Sure. So vibe coding is a recent trend where non-developers can create software simply by describing what they want in natural language.
Just talking to it.
Exactly. Instead of writing complex syntax in Python or C++S, you just describe the vibe or the intent to an AI, and the AI generates the code instantly.
That's wild.
It is. And if we apply that logic to smartphones, it means user interfaces don't need to be static apps downloaded from a store anymore. The phone can generate a custom temporary interface on the fly just for the specific task you're doing, and then completely discard it when you're done.
So forcing users to act as a manual copy-paste middleman between different software silos is just becoming archaic.
Very archaic. The AI agent is the connective tissue that renders static apps obsolete.
Okay, so escaping the restrictive walled gardens of Apple and Google, that's the defensive strategy.
Yeah.
That explains why they are basically forced to build the hardware.
Hell.
But there's an offensive strategy here, too.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
The real prize they're after isn't just surviving, it's capturing continuous user context.
Continuous context is the absolute holy grail for artificial intelligence right now.
Why is that?
Well, to be genuinely helpful, an AI needs to understand the nuance of your daily life. Not just what you explicitly type into a prompt box when you need a recipe, but your actual routines, your commuting habits, who you text the most, what emails you prioritize.
And a standalone app just can't gather that level of rich data. I mean, even with ChatGPT nearing a staggering 1 billion weekly users, the interaction is incredibly transactional.
Yes, very one-off.
You open it, ask it to write an email, you copy the text, and you close it.
Exactly. OpenAI clearly wants a hardware product designed for daily, continuous observation. A custom smartphone allows the AI to constantly observe and understand the user's context in real time.
But practically speaking, how does a phone even do that? Constant monitoring, processing audio, analyzing screen contents that requires massive computing power.
Yeah.
How do they do that without the battery dying in 20 minutes or the phone literally melting in your pocket?
That is the exact engineering hurdle Kuo's note addresses. The phone will utilize what's called a mixed model approach.
A mixed model.
Yes, because you can't rely entirely on the cloud. If your phone has to send an audio file to a server in Virginia every single time you ask it to turn on the flashlight or filter a notification, the latency makes the device feel sluggish and unusable.
Nobody wants a phone that lags when turning on the flashlight.
Exactly. Not to mention, it totally drains the cellular, radio, and battery.
So they can't do it all on the cloud, but they also can't do it all on the device. Because smartphone chip isn't powerful enough to do advanced reasoning, it's a massive balancing act.
It is. The architecture will run a mixture of small, hyper-efficient on-device models and much larger, massive cloud-based models.
Okay, how does that split work?
The local models live on the silicon provided by Qualcomm and MediaTek. They handle the continuous, immediate tasks. Think of them as the reflexes of the phone.
The reflexes, I like that.
Yeah. They run locally, fast, and privately handling voice recognition, screen parsing, and basic sorting.
So the local model realizes, I just got a text from my boss asking for a summary of a massive PDF. It acts as like a triage unit.
Yes. And when a task requires heavy intellectual lifting, like actually synthesizing that 50-page PDF and drafting a highly technical response, the local system seamlessly routes that specific request up to the massive cloud-based models, gets the answer, and brings it back down.
So it only goes to the cloud when it absolutely has to.
Right. This mixed architecture is really the only viable way a device can maintain continuous context without failing basic hardware constraints.
And the software side is already getting there. I mean, the recent release of GPT 5.5 pushes OpenAI incredibly close to becoming an AI super app on its own. It handles voice, text, image generation, and logic puzzles seamlessly.
It's remarkably capable.
Yeah. But this brings us to the elephant in the room. And I know you, listening to this right now, have probably been screaming this at your speakers for the last 10 minutes.
Privacy.
Privacy. It's the most critical hurdle they face, far beyond the engineering challenges.
Without a doubt.
I mean, we have begrudgingly accepted that Google knows what we search and Meta knows what we click. We made that trade-off years ago. But a piece of physical hardware designed specifically from the ground up to constantly monitor my habits.
It's a tough sell.
A device that needs to see my screen, read my texts, and map my routines to be useful. Will consumers actually trust a device that demands to know them better than they know themselves?
We're dealing with a very stark trade-off here. The pitch is going to be ultimate frictionless convenience. The more the system knows about you, the more mental load it removes from your day.
It anticipates your needs before you articulate them.
Right. But the cost of that hyperconvenience is giving a single corporate entity a 360-degree, 247 view of your existence.
Yeah.
That's precisely why having local on-device processing is being so heavily emphasized in these supply chain leaks. OpenAI's defense will undoubtedly be, yes, the AI sees everything, but the data processing happens locally on the MediaTek chip and never leaves your physical device.
But the public has to implicitly trust that the firewall between the local model and the cloud model is impenetrable. And given the tech industry's track record with data, that's a massive leap of faith.
It's a leap of faith they are betting the mass market will take once they actually experience the convenience of an agent-driven life.
Yeah.
But we have to look at the timeline because this is where the ambition hits the reality of the physical world.
Let's get into the when. According to the analyst notes, the specifications for the smartphone and the component suppliers are expected to be finalized or locked in by the end of 2026 or the first quarter of 2027.
Okay.
However, mass production of the actual device isn't expected to begin until 2028.
Yeah.
I have to point out a glaring paradox here.
Which?
In AI time, 2028 is practically a century away. I mean, the AI models we were using 2 years ago look like pocket calculators compared to GPT 5.5.
Very true.
How could a coalition lock in hardware specifications in late 2026 for AI software that will have evolved exponentially by the time the phone actually rolls off the assembly line in 2028?
This is exactly where a software company crashes headfirst into the unforgiving nature of hardware supply chains.
It's brutal.
When you exist purely in the digital realm, you're spoiled. Software can be patched or updated on a Tuesday afternoon. If your engineers achieve a breakthrough in model efficiency, you literally just deploy it to your servers and a billion users have it instantly.
Right, but hardware.
Hardware does not care about your software breakthrough.
Once the silicon is poured, it's permanent.
Unbelievably permanent. To manufacture tens of millions of physical devices, you have to lock in the silicon architecture years in advance. You have to secure fabrication capacity at the chip foundries like TSMC or Samsung years ahead of time. You have to tool the physical assembly lines at Luxshare. You have to source millions of camera lenses, rare earth metals, and batteries. It requires years of lead time.
So OpenAI and their partners are essentially trying to shoot a rapidly moving target while blindfolded.
Yes.
They have to guess in late 2026 exactly what kind of processing power, neural engine bandwidth, and battery capacity their 2028 software models will demand.
Yeah, if they guess wrong.
If they guess wrong, and their 2028 model requires significantly more RAM than they allocated in 2026, they launch a phone that is completely obsolete on day one.
That's the billion-dollar gamble right there. It's an entirely different discipline from training large language models. A software bug gets a hot fix. A hardware bottleneck means you're sitting on a warehouse full of unsellable devices.
That is terrifying for a company.
It is. They are betting that their internal roadmap is predictable enough and their partnership with Qualcomm and MediaTek is strong enough to anticipate exactly where the AI puck is going to be 2 years from now and build the physical net to catch it.
It's an astonishing level of ambition and, frankly, a staggering amount of risk.
Let's step back and summarize the sheer scale of the paradigm shift we're tracking here. We are looking at what could very well be the twilight of the App Store era.
The end of an era.
Yeah. The grid of squares we've navigated for almost 20 years might soon be a relic, replaced by the dawn of the AI agent era. And this isn't just a software update. It's a full-scale physical invasion driven by a powerhouse alliance.
You have OpenAI providing the brain.
Right. MediaTek and Qualcomm forging the silicon muscle, and Luxshare constructing the physical body to house it all.
The transition from a phone being a static tool you actively manipulate to an autonomous entity that acts on your behalf will fundamentally rewire our relationship with technology.
Absolutely. So as you go about your day-to-day, I really encourage you to actively notice the friction in your digital life. Every time you have to tap a screen, scroll through a menu, copy an address from a text message just to paste it into a Maps app.
Or juggling between an email and a calendar. Yes, all of that. I want you to imagine all of that friction just melting away, handled seamlessly in the background by an underlying agent that already knows what you're trying to achieve.
But as you imagine that frictionless future, there is a deeper question worth pondering.
What's that?
Well, if your phone anticipates your every need and an AI agent executes tasks on your behalf without you ever opening an interface or clicking a button, who is actually making the choices?
Wow.
Are you still curating your own digital reality, or is the AI silently doing it for you?
That is a fascinating, slightly terrifying thought to leave on. Thank you so much for joining us on TechDaily.ai. We'll catch you next time.